Mind Over Muscle: The Mental Health Challenges of Men in Sports and Fitness. Written and published by Ciro Irmici. Feel free to subscribe for more content. Now let's get into the book. Introduction. If you've ever tried to bench press your way through a bad day, only to find that the weight of the world and those dumbbells just won't budge, you're not alone. Men in sports and fitness are often seen as the epitome of strength, resilience, and endurance. But beneath the six-pack abs and sculpted muscles, there's often an untold story, one of mental health challenges that are as heavy as any barbell. In the world of sports and fitness, men are often expected to be tough and unbreakable. You're supposed to shake off injuries, push through pain, and never admit defeat. And let's be real, many of us have tried, whether it's training through a sprained ankle or pretending that the relentless pressure to perform isn't driving us a little nuts. Spoiler alert, it usually is. This book isn't about telling you to be less of a man, whatever that even means these days. Instead, we're here to talk about something just as important as hitting that next personal best or finally getting your squat form right: your mental health. Believe it or not, your mind needs training too. In fact, it might be the muscle that's been neglected the most in your fitness journey. We'll dive deep into the world of mental health challenges men face in sports and fitness. From performance anxiety to the psychological strain of injuries, from the pressures of body image to the silent stress of burnout, it's time to lift the weight off your shoulders, at least the metaphorical ones. And hey, if you've ever wondered why the guy next to you at the gym seems more obsessed with supplements than Superman with kryptonite, we'll talk about that too. Along the way, we'll sprinkle in a little humor because let's face it, sometimes you just have to laugh at the absurdity of life, like when your coach tells you to leave your feelings at the door, but you're just trying to remember if you locked your car. But don't worry, we'll also give you practical advice on how to manage the mental side of the game, because there's no point in flexing those muscles if your mind isn't strong too. So, whether you're a competitive athlete, a weekend warrior, or someone who's just trying to keep up with their New Year's resolution, this book is for you. Because at the end of the day, being mentally strong is just as important as being physically fit, maybe even more. Now, let's get ready to lift some emotional weights and see what we can bench press in terms of mental health. Spoiler, there's no PR in sight, but it's a journey worth taking. Chapter 1. The Pressure to Perform: Mental Health in Competitive Sports. Imagine this: it's game day. You've trained for months, your muscles are primed, and your mind is supposed to be sharp. But as you step onto the field, court, or track, there's that familiar nagging feeling in your gut: the pressure to perform. Everyone is watching. Your coach is expecting greatness, your teammates are counting on you, and your opponents? Well, they're hoping you'll choke. And let's not forget the fans, whether it's a stadium full of them or just that one friend who never misses a chance to remind you about that time you fumbled in high school. This is the reality for countless men in competitive sports. The pressure is relentless, and while physical conditioning gets all the attention, mental conditioning often gets left on the sidelines. Performance anxiety isn't just a nervous flutter before the starting whistle. It's a full-body assault of self-doubt, fear of failure, and the crushing weight of expectation. The silent opponent: anxiety on the field. Let's face it, competition is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can push you to reach new heights, to dig deeper, to become stronger. On the other hand, it can leave you feeling like a deer in the headlights, staring down the daunting expectations of everyone around you. For many men, the pressure to always be at their best can create a mental battlefield that no amount of physical training can prepare them for. Here's the thing: performance anxiety doesn't care how strong you are or how fast you can run. It sneaks up on you, even when you're in peak physical shape, making you question your abilities right when you need to be most confident. It's that little voice in the back of your head saying, "What if you screw up?" And it doesn't stop there. Performance anxiety can also manifest physically: sweaty palms, a racing heart, muscles that feel tight and uncooperative, as if they're suddenly in on the conspiracy to make you fail. It's like your body decides to forget everything it knows just when the stakes are highest. Fun, right? But why does this happen? Well, it's all about stress. Our bodies are wired to respond to stress with a fight-or-flight reaction. This worked great when our ancestors were facing down saber-toothed tigers, but on the modern battlefield of sports, it's not so helpful. Your brain doesn't always know the difference between the threat of a tiger and the threat of missing the game-winning shot, so it dumps a bunch of adrenaline into your system and waits for you to react. Only now, instead of running or fighting, you're supposed to stay calm, focused, and, do something incredibly coordinated like score a goal. The weight of expectations: internal and external pressure. Of course, it's not just the fear of failure that drives performance anxiety. A big part of the pressure comes from expectations, both internal and external. Coaches, teammates, fans, and even your own family can unintentionally pile on the stress. They may mean well, offering words of encouragement or placing their hopes on your shoulders, but let's be honest, sometimes it feels like the weight of their expectations is heavier than any barbell you've ever lifted. And then there's your own inner critic, the voice that's always telling you that you could have done better, should have trained harder, should have performed flawlessly. For men in sports, perfectionism can be a particularly nasty adversary. When your identity is wrapped up in your performance, any slip-up can feel like a personal failure, not just a bad day on the field. It's as if your self-worth is directly tied to your score, your time, or your ranking. Athletes are often their own harshest critics. After all, the drive to improve is what pushes you to train harder, to aim higher. But when that drive becomes an obsession, it can turn toxic. You stop enjoying the game and instead, every moment becomes about avoiding mistakes, about proving yourself, again and again. And that's when the joy of the sport starts to fade, replaced by a constant fear of not living up to expectations. The mental cost of success. Ironically, sometimes the pressure to perform only gets worse after you've achieved success. It's like climbing a mountain only to find that the peak comes with its own unique set of challenges. Once you've reached the top, there's the pressure to stay there. Everyone expects you to keep winning, to keep breaking records, to always be at your best. Suddenly, maintaining that level of excellence feels like a second job, one where failure isn't an option. For many high-performing athletes, this mental strain can lead to burnout. When you're constantly in go mode, with little time to rest and recover mentally, it takes a toll. The emotional exhaustion from trying to meet everyone's expectations, including your own, can leave you feeling depleted, anxious, and on edge. Burnout doesn't just mean physical fatigue. It's a mental and emotional exhaustion that leaves you questioning why you even started in the first place. Coping with the pressure. So, how do men in competitive sports deal with this pressure to perform? The unfortunate truth is that many don't deal with it at all. They ignore it. Athletes are often taught to suck it up, to push through the pain, both physical and mental. Admitting to feeling overwhelmed or anxious can feel like admitting weakness, and that's the last thing you want to do when you're supposed to be the strong, dependable one. But ignoring the mental side of performance can have serious consequences. Not only can it impact your game, but it can also affect your overall well-being. Studies show that athletes who don't address their mental health are more prone to injuries, more likely to experience burnout, and at greater risk for developing long-term anxiety or depression. The good news? You don't have to go it alone. Mental training is just as important as physical training, and there are strategies that can help athletes manage the pressure. From mindfulness exercises that keep you present in the moment to mental rehearsals that visualize success, there are tools available to train your brain to handle high-pressure situations more effectively. And guess what? This type of mental conditioning can improve your performance too. Mental conditioning, the key to unlocking peak performance. Think of mental training as the next evolution in your fitness journey. Just like you work on your endurance, strength, and agility, you can develop mental resilience. It's not about ignoring the pressure. It's about learning how to manage it so that it doesn't control you. Athletes who engage in mental conditioning often find that they're able to perform more consistently, with less anxiety and more confidence. Incorporating mental health strategies into your training routine isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of smart training. After all, the most successful athletes aren't just physically strong, they're mentally tough. They know how to focus under pressure, how to stay calm when the stakes are high, and how to recover when things don't go their way. So, the next time you feel the pressure building before a big game, remember, you've trained your body, now it's time to train your mind. And if you need to laugh it off a little, imagine that even the greatest athletes in history have probably felt just as nervous, sweaty, and uncertain as you do right now. It's all part of the game. Chapter 2, Body Image and the Male Athlete, a Silent Struggle. When you think of body image issues, you probably imagine glossy magazine covers, airbrushed models, and the societal pressure for women to look a certain way. But here's a secret that doesn't get talked about enough. Men, especially those in sports and fitness, struggle with body image too. A lot. In fact, the world of fitness can sometimes feel like a never-ending competition, not just about who's faster or stronger, but who has the biggest muscles, the lowest body fat percentage, and the most ripped physique. It's a strange irony, really. The place where men go to improve their health and strength can also become a breeding ground for insecurities and unhealthy comparisons. And while women's body image issues are more openly discussed, men often suffer in silence, believing that admitting to such insecurities is somehow unmanly. Well, let's call that what it is, nonsense. Men deal with body image pressures just as much as women, but the expectations are different. In the sports and fitness world, the ideal male body is often portrayed as muscular, lean, and virtually indestructible. Whether you're a professional athlete, a gym enthusiast, or even just a guy who works out to stay healthy, the pressure to look a certain way is hard to escape. The ideal body, more than just muscles. Let's get one thing straight. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good or be in shape. In fact, being physically healthy is a great goal. But in the world of sports and fitness, the ideal male body can often become an obsession. The chiseled six-pack, bulging biceps, and sculpted chest have become synonymous with success, strength, and in some cases masculinity itself. The problem is, this ideal isn't attainable for everyone, and chasing it can lead to serious mental and physical health problems. For some, the journey toward this perfect body becomes all-consuming. Hours at the gym, strict diets, and constant self-scrutiny in the mirror can take over a man's life. And when progress isn't as quick or visible as expected, frustration sets in. You might think, if I can just get bigger arms or more defined abs, I'll feel better about myself. But here's the kicker. Those physical changes don't always lead to the emotional satisfaction you expect. In fact, the more you chase that perfect body, the more elusive it can feel. Let's not forget the role of social media in all this. Scrolling through Instagram, it seems like everyone has the body of a Greek god, flexing in perfectly lit gym selfies, seemingly with no effort at all. But what you don't see behind those photos are the hours of hard work, the filters, the touch-ups, and sometimes even unhealthy practices to achieve those results. Comparison, as they say, is the thief of joy, and in the fitness world, it's stealing more than just happiness. It's taking a toll on mental health. Muscle dysmorphia, when big isn't big enough. For some men, this obsession with physical appearance can develop into a condition known as muscle dysmorphia, often referred to as bigorexia. It's the flip side of the more commonly known body dysmorphia, but instead of feeling too small, individuals with muscle dysmorphia believe they're never big enough. No matter how much muscle they pack on, it's never sufficient. They see themselves as scrawny or weak, even if they're anything but. Muscle dysmorphia is particularly common among bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts, but it can affect anyone in the world of sports. The pressure to be bigger, stronger, and leaner is relentless, and for those struggling with muscle dysmorphia, this pressure becomes overwhelming. They may spend countless hours in the gym, obsessively monitor their diet, and even turn to dangerous supplements or steroids to achieve the body they think they need. But here's the hard truth. Even if you hit your physical goals, muscle dysmorphia doesn't magically disappear. In fact, the condition is rooted in deeper psychological issues, like self-esteem and societal pressures, that can't be fixed with bigger muscles. It's a mental health issue that needs to be addressed head-on, with support, self-awareness, and sometimes professional help. The fitness industry and its role in body image. It's hard to talk about body image issues in men without mentioning the fitness industry. On one hand, it promotes health, strength, and well-being. On the other, it often profits from insecurity. The billion-dollar supplement industry, for instance, thrives on making men feel like they aren't big enough, lean enough, or strong enough without their latest product. Advertisements show ripped models with physiques that are unattainable for most men, even with the most rigorous workout regimen. And so, the cycle of insecurity continues. Magazines, social media influencers, and even some personal trainers contribute to the idea that there's a single ideal male body. If you don't look like the guy on the cover of Men's Health, you're doing something wrong. The reality is, every body is different. Genetics play a huge role in how we build muscle, burn fat, and develop physically. What works for one guy might not work for another, and that's okay. But the fitness industry rarely emphasizes this. Instead, it often encourages men to chase after a one-size-fits-all ideal, which is not only unrealistic but also harmful to mental well-being. The mental health toll, more than skin deep. The effects of poor body image go beyond the mirror. Men who struggle with their appearance can experience a range of mental health issues, from anxiety and depression to low self-esteem and social isolation. The pressure to look a certain way can lead to extreme dieting, overexercising, and in some cases, the use of harmful substances like steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs. It's not uncommon for men to avoid social situations because they don't feel comfortable with their bodies. They might skip the beach, the pool, or even avoid the gym if they feel like they don't measure up to others. In extreme cases, body image issues can lead to eating disorders, such as binge eating or excessive calorie restriction. And yet, because these problems are often seen as female issues, men are less likely to seek help or even admit that they're struggling. In competitive sports, this issue is even more pronounced. Athletes are expected to maintain a certain physique to meet the demands of their sport. Wrestlers, bodybuilders, gymnasts, and even football players often have to adhere to strict body standards that can take a serious toll on their mental health. The constant need to stay lean, bulk up, or fit into a weight class can lead to unhealthy behaviors, and when the physical results don't come as easily as expected, it can feel like a personal failure. Changing the conversation. Embracing body positivity for men. So, how do we address the issue of body image in men's sports and fitness? The first step is to start talking about it. For too long, men have been conditioned to keep quiet about their insecurities, to man up, and push through. But body image struggles are real, and ignoring them won't make them go away. We need to change the narrative around what it means to be fit and healthy. Body positivity isn't just for women, it's for everyone. It's about recognizing that health and strength come in all shapes and sizes. Being lean doesn't necessarily mean you're fit, just like being big doesn't mean you're healthy. The key is balance, physical, mental, and emotional. It's about being kind to yourself, understanding your body's limits, and recognizing that fitness is a journey, not a destination. It's also important to remember that your worth is not defined by your appearance. Sure, having a great physique can boost your confidence, but true self-esteem comes from much more than muscles. It comes from how you treat yourself, how you handle challenges, and how you care for your mental and physical health in a holistic way. Finding balance, healthy fitness goals. If you're passionate about sports and fitness, setting physical goals is great. But those goals should be realistic, healthy, and rooted in self-improvement, not self-punishment. It's okay to want to be stronger, faster, or more muscular, but it's also important to be mindful of the reasons behind those goals. Are you chasing perfection because you feel like you're not good enough as you are? Or are you genuinely striving to improve your health and well-being? The key is to strike a balance. Celebrate your progress, but don't become obsessed with it. Enjoy the process of becoming stronger, but don't let it define your self-worth. And most importantly, recognize that fitness is about more than just physical strength. It's about mental resilience, emotional well-being, and the ability to enjoy life fully, without the constant pressure to measure up to some unrealistic ideal. Chapter 3. Injuries and the Mental Battle. Coping with setbacks. For most athletes and fitness enthusiasts, injuries are an inevitable part of the journey. Whether it's a torn ligament, a sprained ankle, or that dreaded lower back strain, injuries can take you from feeling invincible to suddenly sidelined, watching from the bench as your hard-earned progress seems to slip away. But what many people don't realize is that the physical pain of an injury is often just the tip of the iceberg. The real battle lies in the mental toll it takes. For men, especially in sports and fitness, coping with injury can feel like an affront to their sense of identity and strength. And that's where the struggle truly begins. The athlete's mindset, invincible until you're not. There's something about the athlete's mindset that makes injuries feel like a betrayal. You train hard, you push yourself, you tell your body to go beyond its limits, and then, snap, something gives. It's as if your body didn't get the memo that quitting isn't an option. For many men, especially those deeply invested in their physical abilities, injury feels like failure. You're taught to push through pain, to tough it out, but when that pain becomes too much to bear and you're forced to stop, it can be devastating. From a young age, men in sports are conditioned to believe that toughness is key to success. You've probably heard phrases like, walk it off, or pain is just weakness leaving the body. While these sayings are often meant to motivate, they can create an unrealistic expectation that men should be able to push through anything, whether it's a minor sprain or a major injury. But here's the truth. Your body has limits, and pushing past those limits isn't always heroic. Sometimes it's harmful. When injury strikes, it's not just your body that's sidelined, it's your mind. Suddenly, the outlet that gave you a sense of purpose, identity, and control is taken away, and you're left with time to reflect on what's gone wrong. For many men, this period of inactivity leads to feelings of frustration, helplessness, and even depression. The gym, the field, the court, these are places where you feel in control, powerful. But when injury takes that away, it can feel like you're losing a piece of yourself. Dealing with the mental fallout, isolation, and identity loss. One of the most difficult aspects of dealing with an injury is the sense of isolation that often comes with it. While your teammates or workout buddies are still pushing forward, you're left on the sidelines watching from a distance. You might try to stay engaged to support others, but there's no denying that sense of separation. It's like being part of the team but not really. You're there physically, but mentally it's a different story. This isolation can lead to a profound sense of identity loss, especially for men who have built much of their self-worth around their physical abilities. For athletes and fitness enthusiasts, sports aren't just a hobby, they're a lifestyle. They shape your routine, your goals, your friendships, and even the way you see yourself. When an injury takes that away, it can leave you questioning who you are without it. If you've always been the strong guy, or the fast one, what happens when you can't perform at that level anymore? The emotional toll of injury isn't just about missing out on workouts or competitions. It's about grappling with the reality that your body has limitations and that those limitations can affect how you see yourself as a man. For some, this can lead to feelings of inadequacy or shame. After all, society often tells men that strength and physical prowess are core components of masculinity. When that's taken away, it can feel like you're losing more than just physical ability, you're losing a part of your identity. The fear of re-injury, when caution becomes anxiety. Once you're injured, there's another mental challenge that creeps in, the fear of re-injury. Even after the body has healed, the mind often lags behind, still holding on to the trauma of the original injury. This fear can manifest in different ways. For some, it's a hesitation to fully commit during training, worried that one wrong move could send them back to square one. For others, it's an underlying anxiety that's hard to shake, a nagging voice that says, "What if it happens again?" This fear isn't irrational. Re-injury is a real risk, especially if you return to training too soon or push yourself too hard. But when fear becomes overwhelming, it can hinder your recovery both physically and mentally. You might find yourself holding back, playing it safe, and not pushing your body to its full potential. While caution is important, living in fear of re-injury can prevent you from truly moving forward. In many ways, the fear of re-injury is as much a mental hurdle as the injury itself. Overcoming it requires more than just physical rehab, it requires mental resilience. You have to rebuild your confidence, trust your body again, and learn to navigate the fine line between pushing your limits and respecting your boundaries. It's a delicate balance, but one that's crucial for both your physical and mental recovery. The role of psychological recovery, mental rehab matters. When it comes to recovering from an injury, physical therapy is often the first thing that comes to mind. You focus on rebuilding strength, regaining mobility, and gradually getting back to your pre-injury condition. But there's another side of recovery that's just as important: mental rehab. Unfortunately, this is often overlooked, especially in the world of men's sports and fitness, where mental health discussions can still feel taboo. Psychological recovery involves more than just dealing with the emotional fallout of an injury, it's about retraining your mind to support your body's recovery process. This includes addressing feelings of frustration, anger, or even depression that may arise during your downtime. It's about finding ways to stay engaged with your sport or fitness goals, even when you can't actively participate. And perhaps most importantly, it's about managing the anxiety and fear that can come with returning to activity after an injury. One effective approach to mental rehab is mindfulness, which can help athletes stay grounded in the present moment, rather than fixating on the past, the injury, or the future, the fear of re-injury. Mindfulness techniques like deep breathing, meditation, and visualization can reduce anxiety and help athletes stay focused on their recovery. Visualization in particular can be a powerful tool. By mentally rehearsing movements or visualizing yourself performing at your best, you can build confidence and prepare your mind for a successful return to sport. Another key aspect of mental rehab is setting realistic, achievable goals. After an injury, it's easy to get discouraged when you're not able to perform at your previous level. But recovery is a process, and expecting immediate results can set you up for disappointment. Instead, focus on small, incremental progress. Celebrate the milestones, whether it's regaining mobility, improving strength, or simply getting back to the gym for the first time post-injury. These small victories can help rebuild your confidence and keep you motivated during the recovery process. The importance of patience and self-compassion. Recovering from an injury requires patience, a trait that doesn't always come naturally to athletes who are used to pushing their limits. But patience is essential, both physically and mentally. Rushing back into training before your body is ready can lead to re-injury or prolonged recovery, and trying to force yourself to feel better mentally without addressing the underlying emotional challenges can lead to burnout or deeper issues down the line. Self-compassion is equally important. It's easy to be hard on yourself when you're injured, especially if you're used to being the guy who's always pushing through pain. But treating yourself with kindness during this time can make a world of difference. Remind yourself that injury is a part of the athletic journey, not a reflection of your worth. It's not a sign of weakness, it's just a temporary setback. And like any setback, it's something you can overcome with the right mindset and support. Finding strength in setbacks. A new perspective on injury. Believe it or not, injuries can be an opportunity for growth, both physically and mentally. Yes, they're frustrating, and yes, they can be painful, but they also offer a chance to reevaluate your approach to fitness, your mental toughness, and your overall well-being. For many athletes, an injury becomes a turning point, a moment where they're forced to look at their training, their bodies, and their mental health in a new way. Injury can teach you the importance of rest and recovery, something that's often overlooked in the go-go-go mentality of sports and fitness. It can also highlight the need for balance, not just physical balance but mental balance as well. When you're sidelined, you have the opportunity to focus on other aspects of your life that may have taken a backseat to your training. Maybe it's relationships, hobbies, or even mental health practices like mindfulness or therapy. In the end, coping with injury is as much about mental strength as it is about physical recovery. It's about accepting the setback, trusting the process, and coming back stronger, not just in body but in mind. And when you do come back, you might just find that you've gained something more valuable than a healed muscle or a stronger joint. You've gained resilience, perspective, and a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be strong. Chapter 4. The Dark Side of Fitness Culture. Steroids, Supplements, and Mental Health. Fitness culture has become a double-edged sword. On one side, it promotes health, strength, and well-being, things we can all get behind. But on the other, it can foster unrealistic expectations, obsessive behaviors, and a pressure to achieve physical perfection at all costs. For many men, the desire to get bigger, faster, and stronger is more than just a fitness goal. It becomes an all-consuming pursuit. And for some, that pursuit leads them down a dangerous path of steroids, extreme supplements, and a toxic relationship with their own body. While sports and fitness should be about improving health, sometimes the pressure to look and perform a certain way can lead men to make choices that are anything but healthy. The use of performance-enhancing drugs like anabolic steroids and the over-reliance on supplements have become widespread in certain circles. And the mental toll of these substances, along with the fitness culture that promotes them, is often overlooked. The temptation of steroids, when bigger isn't better. Let's be real for a second. Building muscle is hard work. You can spend hours in the gym, follow a strict diet, and still not see the results you want. Progress can feel slow, frustrating, and for some, not enough. In this environment, the allure of anabolic steroids can be hard to resist. Steroids promise quicker gains, bigger muscles, and improved performance. Who wouldn't be tempted? For many men, steroids represent a shortcut to the ideal physique that fitness culture so often promotes. But here's the thing, steroids come with a steep price, and it's not just physical. Sure, you've probably heard about the physical side effects of steroids, heart problems, liver damage, hormonal imbalances, and those infamous roid rage episodes. But what we don't talk about enough is the impact steroids can have on mental health. Steroids can lead to mood swings, irritability, aggression, and even full-blown depression. The same drug that makes you feel invincible in the gym can leave you feeling like you're falling apart mentally. Some men experience severe anxiety or paranoia, becoming hyper-focused on their bodies and obsessed with maintaining their steroid-enhanced gains. In the long term, steroid use can alter brain chemistry, leading to dependence and worsening mental health issues. So, while the muscles may grow, the emotional and psychological damage can be lasting. The vicious cycle, chasing an unattainable ideal. One of the biggest problems with steroids is that they feed into an already toxic mindset. The idea that bigger is always better and that your worth as a man is tied to the size of your muscles. Fitness culture often promotes an extreme ideal of masculinity, where the only way to prove yourself is through physical dominance. And once you've started down the path of steroid use, it can be hard to stop. For some men, steroids create a vicious cycle. You see quick results, and the rush of having a bigger, more defined physique is intoxicating. But eventually, the effects wear off, and to maintain those gains, you need to keep using. Worse yet, your body can become reliant on the drug, making it difficult to quit without losing muscle mass. This can create a cycle of dependency, both physical and mental, that's hard to break. The pressure to keep up appearances can also drive this cycle. In the age of social media, where everyone is posting their highlight reel and their best pump photos, the comparison game is constant. You might find yourself feeling inadequate even if you're already in great shape, because there's always someone who seems to be leaner, bigger, or more ripped than you. Steroids can seem like the solution to closing that gap, but they only deepen the insecurities that drive men to use them in the first place. Supplements, the gateway to bigger risks. Now, not everyone turns to steroids, but the world of supplements can be just as problematic in its own way. Walk into any fitness store or browse an online shop, and you'll be bombarded with products promising faster muscle growth, fat loss, and improved performance. Protein powders, pre-workouts, fat burners, creatine, the list goes on. And while some supplements can be helpful when used correctly, they can also foster unhealthy behaviors and beliefs about fitness. The supplement industry thrives on the idea that you're not enough as you are. There's always something you can add to your diet, some powder or pill that will give you an edge. But here's the dirty secret of the supplement world. A lot of these products don't do what they claim. Many are poorly regulated, contain questionable ingredients, and may have little to no effect on your actual performance or physique. Yet, they sell billions of dollars worth of products every year, capitalizing on the insecurities of men who want to see faster results. And let's talk about the mental aspect. For some men, the use of supplements becomes an obsession. Instead of focusing on a balanced, sustainable fitness plan, they fall into the trap of thinking they need a cocktail of powders and pills just to keep up. This mindset can lead to over-reliance on supplements, and in extreme cases, it can act as a gateway to more dangerous substances like steroids. When you start believing that you need external aids to succeed in fitness, it's easy to slide down a slippery slope. The role of fitness influencers: false promises and unrealistic expectations. In today's digital world, fitness influencers have a huge impact on how men approach health and fitness. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, these platforms are filled with ripped guys showcasing their physiques, offering workout tips, and often promoting supplements. What you don't see behind these perfectly lit posts is the reality. Many of these influencers aren't achieving their results naturally. Steroids and extreme supplements are more common than most people think, but rarely do influencers disclose their use. This creates an incredibly toxic environment where young men, or even experienced athletes, are constantly comparing themselves to an unrealistic standard. When you see someone on social media with an impossibly perfect body, promoting the latest supplement or diet, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that's what you need to look like. The reality, though, is that these images are often the result of drugs, extreme diets, and even Photoshop. The fitness influencer world also plays into the myth that there's a shortcut to success. Instead of promoting balance, health, and sustainability, many influencers push products that promise quick fixes: fat burners that will melt away belly fat, protein powders that will pack on muscle, or pre-workouts that will make you explode in the gym. But real fitness is a long-term commitment, not something you can achieve with a powder or pill. Mental health and the drive for perfection. All of this, the steroids, the supplements, the fitness influencers, contributes to a larger issue in men's mental health: the relentless drive for physical perfection. For many men, their self-worth becomes tied to their appearance and their performance in the gym. And when you start using steroids or relying on supplements to achieve your goals, the line between health and obsession can become dangerously blurred. What's often missing in fitness culture is the understanding that mental health and physical health are deeply interconnected. Sure, a big ripped physique might look impressive, but what's the cost? If you're sacrificing your mental well-being to chase an impossible ideal, is it really worth it? The truth is, the more you chase perfection, the harder it becomes to be satisfied. And that dissatisfaction can lead to anxiety, depression, and a constant feeling of inadequacy. For many men, the pressure to perform, to look a certain way, or to be the biggest guy in the gym becomes overwhelming. It's a pressure that's not just physical but mental, and it can take a serious toll on your emotional well-being. Steroid use, supplement obsession, and the never-ending comparison to others are all signs of deeper mental health struggles that need to be addressed. But in a culture that glorifies strength and perfection, admitting that you're struggling can feel like weakness. Finding a healthier path, balance, and mental wellness. So, how do we navigate the dark side of fitness culture? How do we promote strength, health, and performance without falling into the traps of steroids, supplements, and the toxic drive for perfection? The key lies in balance, and in redefining what fitness and health truly mean. First, it's important to shift the focus from appearance to overall well-being. Fitness should be about feeling good, staying healthy, and building strength, not about chasing an unattainable aesthetic. This means setting realistic goals that are sustainable in the long term, rather than relying on quick fixes or dangerous shortcuts. Second, we need to promote mental health as part of the fitness journey. The gym is often seen as a place to improve the body, but it should also be a place to improve the mind. Mindfulness, self-compassion, and mental resilience are just as important as physical strength, and these practices can help athletes and fitness enthusiasts stay grounded and balanced. Lastly, we need to be more honest about the role of steroids and supplements in fitness culture. It's time to lift the veil on the unrealistic standards that many men are chasing. This means being transparent about the risks of performance-enhancing drugs and encouraging men to seek help if they're struggling with body image, self-esteem, or mental health issues related to fitness. In the end, true strength isn't just about how much weight you can lift or how lean you are. It's about being mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy. It's about building a body that supports you, rather than one that defines you. And most importantly, it's about understanding that health is more than just muscle. It's the balance between mind and body. Chapter 5. The loneliness of success, social isolation in sports. Success in sports and fitness is often painted as a glamorous and desirable goal. Athletes at the top of their game are celebrated, cheered, and admired. Whether you're breaking records in the gym, dominating the field, or reaching your personal best, success comes with a sense of achievement and pride. But what often gets lost in the celebration of success is the emotional toll it can take. Behind the glory and the wins, many men in sports face a profound and sometimes crippling sense of isolation. Success, for all its accolades, can be lonely. We don't often talk about the solitude that can accompany high achievement in sports and fitness. The reality is that the drive for excellence can create distance between you and others, between you and your former self, and sometimes even between you and the things you once loved about your sport. It's not that success is inherently isolating, but the sacrifices made along the way often come with unintended emotional consequences. The high cost of winning, sacrificing relationships. Success in sports, particularly at a high level, demands sacrifice. To be the best, you often have to prioritize your training, your diet, and your overall lifestyle in ways that can distance you from the people around you. Friends and family might not understand the level of dedication required to maintain your fitness regimen or to push your body to its limits. Social events, spontaneous dinners, and nights out with friends can feel like distractions when you're laser-focused on achieving your goals. And so, slowly but surely, a wall starts to build between you and the people you care about. At first, it might seem like a small price to pay. After all, success requires commitment, right? But over time, the isolation can grow. You miss out on important moments with loved ones because you're at the gym, on the field, or traveling for competitions. Your conversations become more centered around your training and performance, and less about connecting with others on a personal level. Friends might stop inviting you to events because they assume you're too busy or too focused to join in. For men, especially in sports and fitness, this isolation is compounded by societal expectations. Men are often expected to be self-reliant, stoic, and focused on their goals. Admitting that you're feeling lonely, that the sacrifices are starting to weigh on you, can feel like admitting weakness. And in the competitive world of sports, weakness is the last thing you want to show. So, instead of reaching out or talking about it, many men bottle up these feelings, further deepening the sense of isolation. The pressure to maintain success, always on the edge. Once you've achieved success, the pressure to maintain it can be overwhelming. It's one thing to reach the top, but staying there? That's a whole different challenge. The fear of losing what you've worked so hard for can create a constant sense of tension. You might feel like you can't afford to let up, even for a moment. Every day is another test of whether you can hold on to your achievements, and that pressure can be exhausting. This kind of pressure can lead to further isolation. When your focus is entirely on maintaining success, there's little room for anything, or anyone, else. Relationships, hobbies, and downtime can start to feel like distractions from your goal. Even when you're not training or competing, your mind is often elsewhere, worrying about the next challenge, the next goal, the next competitor who's gunning for your spot. For some men, this constant pressure creates a self-imposed isolation. You start to withdraw from others because you feel like no one else understands the weight you're carrying. You might avoid social situations because they seem frivolous compared to the demands of your sport. In extreme cases, this isolation can lead to burnout, where the joy of success is overshadowed by the anxiety of maintaining it. The lonely road to the top. Understanding emotional isolation. Another element of loneliness in sports success is emotional isolation. Even when you're surrounded by teammates, coaches, and fans, it's possible to feel incredibly alone. This is particularly true for men who are expected to lead by example or carry the team. The pressure to be the strong one, the reliable one, can make it difficult to express vulnerability or to admit when you're struggling emotionally. Athletes, especially those who reach high levels of success, are often put on a pedestal. They're seen as role models, as individuals who have it all together. But this image can be suffocating. When everyone expects you to be perfect, to always have the answers, it can feel impossible to share your doubts, your fears, or your insecurities. This emotional isolation can become a heavy burden, making it hard to reach out for help when you need it most. It's not just about the fear of judgment from others, it's also about the fear of disappointing yourself. When you've built your identity around being successful, around being the best, the idea of admitting that you're struggling can feel like a betrayal of who you are. And so, many men in sports keep pushing forward, refusing to acknowledge the emotional toll their success is taking. But the longer you ignore these feelings, the deeper the isolation becomes. The myth of the lone wolf. Why connection matters. One of the most damaging myths in sports and fitness culture is the idea of the lone wolf. The athlete who goes it alone, who doesn't need anyone, and who achieves greatness through sheer individual effort. While independence and self-discipline are valuable traits, the truth is that no one succeeds entirely on their own. Behind every successful athlete is a support system, whether it's a coach, a team, friends, or family, helping them along the way. But the lone wolf myth persists, particularly for men. There's a societal expectation that men should be able to handle things on their own, without needing emotional support. This is especially true in sports, where strength, toughness, and self-reliance are often glorified. The result? Men who feel like they can't reach out to others for fear of seeming weak or dependent. The reality, however, is that connection is essential to both mental and physical well-being. Humans are social creatures and we thrive on relationships. For athletes and fitness enthusiasts, maintaining strong, supportive connections can provide a buffer against the loneliness and isolation that can come with success. Whether it's sharing your struggles with a trusted friend, seeking advice from a mentor, or simply taking time to relax with loved ones, these connections are vital in keeping you grounded and emotionally healthy. Social media and the illusion of connection. It's ironic, really. In a world where we're more connected than ever through social media, many men in sports and fitness feel lonelier than ever. Platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok can create the illusion of connection. You're sharing your journey, getting likes and comments, and engaging with fans or followers. But in reality, these digital interactions can sometimes deepen the sense of isolation. Social media often presents a curated version of success. Athletes post their highlights, their best moments, and their achievements, but rarely do they share the struggles, the loneliness, or the sacrifices behind the scenes. This creates a skewed perspective, where it seems like everyone else is thriving and achieving without difficulty, while you're the only one feeling isolated or struggling emotionally. What's more, the pressure to maintain an online presence to keep up with the constant flow of content can add to the emotional burden. You're not just working to maintain your success in the real world, you're also managing your digital brand, which can feel like a full-time job in itself. This disconnect between the curated image of success and the reality of emotional isolation can leave many athletes feeling more alone than ever, despite having thousands of followers. Overcoming isolation, building a support network. So, how do you overcome the loneliness that can come with success in sports and fitness? The answer lies in building and maintaining a strong support network, one that goes beyond your performance and achievements. This network should include people who care about you for who you are, not just what you can do in the gym or on the field. Here are a few strategies for building that network and combating isolation. 1. Reconnect with friends and family. Make time for the people who matter most in your life. Even if your schedule is packed with training and competitions, carve out time for meaningful connections with friends and family. These relationships provide emotional support and remind you that your worth isn't solely defined by your success. 2. Seek out mentorship. Find a mentor who understands the pressures of success and can offer guidance and support. A good mentor can help you navigate the challenges of maintaining high performance while also taking care of your mental health. 3. Open up about your feelings. Don't be afraid to talk about the emotional side of your journey. Whether it's with a close friend, a therapist, or even a coach, sharing your struggles can relieve the emotional burden and help you feel less isolated. 4. Balance your identity. Remember that you are more than just an athlete or a fitness enthusiast. Take time to explore other aspects of your identity, whether it's hobbies, interests, or relationships outside of sports. Building a well-rounded sense of self can help prevent feelings of isolation tied to your athletic success. 5. Find community and shared experiences. Connect with others who are going through similar experiences. Whether it's fellow athletes, workout partners, or online forums, finding people who understand the unique pressures of your sport can create a sense of camaraderie and reduce feelings of isolation. Redefining success. It's not all about winning. At the end of the day, success in sports and fitness isn't just about winning medals, breaking records, or achieving a personal best. True success includes balance between achievement and connection, between striving for greatness and taking care of your mental and emotional well-being. It's about finding fulfillment not just in your victories, but in your relationships, your personal growth, and the sense of purpose that goes beyond the competition. Loneliness is a hidden but very real part of many athletes' lives. But it doesn't have to be. By recognizing the emotional toll of success, reaching out for support, and redefining what it means to be truly successful, you can overcome the isolation and find greater fulfillment both in and out of the gym. Chapter 6. Burnout and Overtraining, the Hidden Mental Costs of Pushing Too Hard. We've all heard the mantra, no pain, no gain. It's a rallying cry for athletes and fitness enthusiasts alike, motivating them to push harder, train longer, and go beyond their limits. The idea is that success in sports and fitness is built on grit, perseverance, and an unrelenting drive to achieve. And while there's no denying that hard work and dedication are key to reaching new heights, there's another side to this story that rarely gets talked about: burnout and overtraining. These are the hidden mental costs of pushing too hard, and they can bring even the strongest athletes to their knees. Burnout in sports doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, one that builds over weeks, months, or even years of relentless training, competition, and pressure. The same drive that propels you forward, the need to succeed, to outperform your rivals, to achieve your goals, can also push you toward exhaustion, both physically and mentally. And when burnout hits, it can feel like everything you've worked so hard for is slipping through your fingers. The signs of burnout: when motivation turns to exhaustion. The first and most obvious sign of burnout is a sudden loss of motivation. What was once a source of joy and purpose, your sport or fitness routine, starts to feel like a chore. You dread going to practice, hitting the gym, or even thinking about your next competition. The passion you once had for the sport begins to fade, replaced by a sense of obligation. You tell yourself, "I should be training," but deep down the excitement that used to fuel you is gone. Physically, burnout can manifest as chronic fatigue. Your body doesn't recover as quickly as it used to. Soreness lingers, injuries seem to pop up more frequently, and even after a good night's sleep, you wake up feeling drained. Overtraining is a common culprit here. When you push your body too hard without giving it the rest and recovery it needs, you're essentially running on empty. But the mental and emotional signs of burnout are just as debilitating. You might find yourself feeling irritable, anxious, or even depressed. Small setbacks, like a bad training session or a missed goal, feel monumental, as if the entire weight of your success hinges on that one moment. This heightened sensitivity to failure can make you question your abilities, your commitment, and even your worth as an athlete. It's not just that you're tired, you're emotionally spent. What's worse, burnout often leads to a vicious cycle. The more exhausted and demotivated you feel, the harder you try to push through it. After all, quitting isn't an option, right? So, instead of listening to your body and mind, you double down on your efforts, convincing yourself that more training, more intensity, and more discipline will fix the problem. But instead of overcoming burnout, you're driving yourself deeper into it. The consequences of overtraining: when too much is dangerous. Overtraining is often mistaken for dedication. In a culture that glorifies hustle and grind, it's easy to think that the more you train, the better you'll become. But in reality, overtraining is one of the biggest threats to your performance and your mental health. While it's true that consistent effort is necessary to improve, there's a fine line between working hard and pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion. Physiologically, overtraining occurs when your body doesn't have enough time to recover between sessions. Muscles break down, inflammation sets in, and your immune system takes a hit. But overtraining isn't just about physical fatigue, it's about mental exhaustion too. When you're overtrained, you're more prone to anxiety, irritability, and even depression. Your body is constantly in a state of stress, which means your mind is too. For athletes, the drive to push through overtraining is often fueled by fear. Fear of losing progress, fear of falling behind, or fear of not being good enough. This fear can lead to obsessive behaviors like training multiple times a day, cutting back on sleep to fit in more workouts, or following extreme diets in the hopes of optimizing performance. And while these behaviors might yield short-term gains, they come at the cost of long-term health and well-being. One of the most dangerous aspects of overtraining is that it often goes unnoticed until it's too late. You might dismiss your fatigue as just a rough patch or blame your lack of motivation on external factors like stress at work or personal issues. But the truth is, if you're constantly feeling worn down, physically, emotionally, and mentally, there's a good chance you're overtraining. And if left unchecked, overtraining can lead to serious injuries, prolonged periods of burnout, and in extreme cases, complete withdrawal from the sport you once loved. The mental toll of burnout, beyond physical fatigue. While the physical consequences of burnout and overtraining are concerning, the mental toll is often even more devastating. At the core of burnout is a deep sense of disillusionment. You start to question why you're doing this in the first place. What was once a passion now feels like an obligation, and the pressure to perform becomes unbearable. For many athletes, burnout can trigger feelings of guilt and shame. You might feel guilty for not loving the sport the way you used to, or ashamed that you're not as driven as others seem to be. This guilt can spiral into self-criticism, where you constantly compare yourself to others and feel like you're not measuring up. It's not just about the fear of failing in your sport, it's about the fear of failing yourself. Burnout also erodes your self-esteem. Athletes often derive a sense of identity and self-worth from their performance. When that performance starts to decline due to overtraining or burnout, it can feel like your entire sense of self is crumbling. You might start to believe that you're only valuable if you're succeeding, and when you're not, it's as if you've lost your purpose. This erosion of self-worth can lead to a host of mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and feelings of hopelessness. In some cases, athletes who experience prolonged burnout may even withdraw from their sport entirely, unable to face the mental and emotional toll any longer. It's a tragic irony. The same passion that once brought joy and fulfillment now feels like a source of pain and emptiness. Breaking the cycle. How to recover from burnout and overtraining. So, how do you break the cycle of burnout and overtraining? The first step is recognizing that rest and recovery are not the enemy, they're essential to your success. Too often, athletes and fitness enthusiasts see rest as a weakness or as something that will slow their progress. But the truth is, without adequate rest, your body and mind cannot function at their best. Here are some strategies for recovering from burnout and overtraining. 1. Listen to your body. This may sound obvious, but it's often the hardest thing for athletes to do. Your body gives you signals when it's had enough, whether it's persistent fatigue, soreness, or a lack of motivation. Pay attention to these signs and give yourself permission to rest when you need it. 2. Prioritize mental health. Just as important as physical recovery is mental recovery. Incorporating mindfulness practices such as meditation or deep breathing can help calm the mind and reduce stress. Consider talking to a therapist or mental health professional who specializes in working with athletes to help you navigate the mental challenges of burnout. 3. Set realistic goals. One of the biggest contributors to burnout is unrealistic expectations. It's great to have ambitious goals, but if they're so high that they become a source of constant stress, it's time to reassess. Break your goals down into smaller, more manageable milestones, and celebrate progress along the way. 4. Incorporate active recovery. Recovery doesn't have to mean doing nothing. Activities like yoga, stretching, swimming, or even light walks can help promote physical healing while keeping your body and mind engaged. 5. Take breaks from your routine. Sometimes burnout occurs because you've become too rigid in your training routine. Mix things up. Try a different sport, take a vacation, or simply step away from the gym for a few days. This change in routine can refresh your mind and help reignite your passion for the sport. 6. Build a support system. Don't try to overcome burnout on your own. Talk to coaches, teammates, or friends who understand what you're going through. Having a support system can provide perspective and remind you that you're not alone in your struggles. 7. Sleep and nutrition. Your body needs proper fuel and rest to recover. Make sure you're getting enough sleep and eating a balanced diet that supports both your physical and mental well-being. Skimping on these essentials can make burnout worse. Embracing rest as part of the process. One of the biggest mindset shifts that athletes and fitness enthusiasts need to make is to see rest as part of the process, not as something that gets in the way of it. Rest is when your muscles repair, your mind resets, and your body recalibrates. Without it, you're not training smarter, you're just pushing yourself closer to burnout. And it's not just about physical rest. Mental rest is equally important. Taking time to step back from the pressures of competition, training, and performance allows your mind to recover from the constant demands placed on it. It's during these periods of mental rest that you can reflect, gain perspective, and reignite the passion that first drew you to your sport. It's also worth remembering that success in sports and fitness is a long-term game. Short-term gains are great, but they mean little if they come at the cost of your long-term health and well-being. The most successful athletes are those who understand the importance of balance, between work and rest, between ambition and self-care. The value of sustainable progress. Ultimately, the goal of any athlete or fitness enthusiast should be sustainable progress. It's not about how hard you can push for a week or even a month. It's about how you can maintain your performance and well-being over the long haul. Burnout and overtraining happen when you lose sight of this balance, when the pursuit of short-term gains overtakes your ability to see the bigger picture. By learning to listen to your body, prioritize your mental health, and embrace rest as a key component of your training, you can break the cycle of burnout and overtraining. And when you do, you'll not only perform better, you'll feel better too. Because in the end, true strength isn't just about how much you can lift or how fast you can run, it's about how well you take care of both your body and your mind. Chapter 7. Dealing with defeat, failure, shame, and mental resilience. If there's one truth about sports and fitness that no athlete can avoid, it's this. You will fail. You will lose games, you will miss lifts, you will fall short of goals. It's part of the journey, an unavoidable reality of pushing yourself to your limits. For some, these failures are a stepping stone to greater success, fueling the desire to come back stronger. But for others, defeat can feel like a heavy blow to their self-worth, bringing feelings of shame, frustration, and self-doubt. For men in particular, the pressure to win, to succeed, and to prove their worth through physical achievement is immense. In a culture that often equates success with masculinity, failure can feel like more than just a setback. It can feel like a personal flaw. But the truth is, defeat is not just inevitable, it's essential. How you handle it determines not just your success in sports, but your mental resilience and growth as a person. The stigma of failure, when defeat feels like a personal shortcoming. In the world of sports, failure is often seen as something to be avoided at all costs. Athletes are taught to win, to succeed, to be the best. When you lose, it can feel like the world is watching, judging, and waiting for you to make excuses or admit that you weren't good enough. Society tends to celebrate winners, and while that makes sense to some extent, it also creates a stigma around failure, especially for men who are often expected to be strong, stoic, and unwavering in their pursuit of victory. For many male athletes, the pressure to avoid failure is overwhelming. Losing a game, competition, or even a personal fitness challenge can feel like a reflection of your worth. And when failure happens, it's easy to slip into a cycle of shame. Instead of viewing defeat as a normal part of the process, many men internalize it, believing that they've let themselves and others down. This can lead to self-criticism, doubt, and, in some cases, a reluctance to continue pursuing their goals. But here's the reality: failure is part of growth. In fact, it's one of the most important parts. No one becomes successful without facing setbacks. Michael Jordan, often regarded as one of the greatest athletes of all time, famously said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." Failure isn't a mark of weakness. It's proof that you're pushing yourself beyond your current abilities, and that's where real growth happens. The shame spiral. Why men struggle to bounce back from defeat. Shame is a powerful emotion, and for many men, it's tied to their sense of identity. In sports, where physical strength, competence, and success are often linked to masculinity, failure can trigger feelings of inadequacy. It's not just about losing the game or falling short of a goal, it's about feeling like you've failed as a man. This is the shame spiral that so many male athletes fall into, and it's incredibly damaging to both their mental health and their long-term success. The shame spiral works like this. You experience a failure, and instead of seeing it as a learning opportunity, you internalize it. You start to question your abilities, your commitment, and your worth. This self-doubt leads to more pressure the next time you compete or train, which in turn increases the likelihood of making mistakes. When those mistakes happen, the cycle repeats, often leading to burnout, frustration, and even a desire to quit altogether. What makes the shame spiral particularly difficult for men is that many feel they can't talk about it. Admitting to feeling ashamed or doubting yourself can feel like admitting weakness, and in a competitive environment, showing weakness is often perceived as dangerous. So, instead of reaching out for support or sharing their struggles, men bottle up these emotions, further deepening the spiral. Shifting the mindset, redefining failure as feedback. The key to breaking out of the shame spiral is to shift your mindset around failure. Instead of seeing defeat as a reflection of your abilities or worth, it's important to start viewing failure as feedback. Every loss, every mistake, every missed goal is an opportunity to learn something valuable about yourself, your training, and your approach. The best athletes aren't the ones who never fail, they're the ones who learn from their failures and use them to improve. Consider this: every time you lose, you're gathering information about what didn't work. Maybe your technique was off, maybe your preparation wasn't adequate, or maybe external factors played a role. Whatever the case, failure is giving you data, and it's up to you to use that data to come back stronger. In this way, defeat isn't an end, it's a step in the process of becoming better. Redefining failure as feedback requires a shift in focus. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, focus on what you can take away from the experience. Ask yourself, what did I learn? How can I improve? What adjustments can I make to my training or mindset going forward? By asking these questions, you turn failure from a source of shame into a tool for growth. Building mental resilience, the key to bouncing back. Mental resilience is the ability to recover quickly from setbacks, and it's one of the most important traits an athlete can develop. While physical strength can carry you through a workout or competition, it's mental resilience that will keep you moving forward in the face of defeat. Developing this resilience is crucial, not just for your performance in sports, but for your mental health and overall well-being. So how do you build mental resilience? Here are some strategies. 1. Practice self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on yourself when you fail, but self-criticism only deepens the feelings of shame and doubt. Instead, practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that everyone fails and that setbacks are a normal part of the process. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a teammate or friend who's struggling. 2. Focus on what you can control. Many athletes get caught up in factors they can't control, like the outcome of a game, the decisions of a referee, or the weather on race day. Mental resilience comes from focusing on what you can control, like your effort, your preparation, and your attitude. By shifting your focus to the things within your control, you'll feel more empowered and less overwhelmed by external circumstances. 3. Set process-oriented goals. Instead of setting goals that are entirely outcome-based, like winning a competition or setting a personal record, focus on goals that are process-oriented. These might include improving your technique, staying consistent with your training, or maintaining a positive mindset. Process-oriented goals help you stay focused on the journey, rather than getting fixated on the result. 4. Embrace failure as part of the journey. The most resilient athletes are the ones who see failure as an inevitable and necessary part of the journey. Instead of fearing failure, embrace it. Recognize that every defeat brings you closer to success because it's teaching you something valuable about yourself and your sport. 5. Surround yourself with support. Mental resilience doesn't mean going it alone. Having a strong support system, whether it's a coach, teammates, friends, or family, can help you stay grounded during tough times. Talking about your struggles, seeking advice, and leaning on others for support can make a huge difference in how you handle failure. The power of vulnerability. Why it's okay to admit defeat. One of the most important lessons athletes can learn is that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. Admitting that you're struggling, that you've faced defeat, or that you're feeling uncertain doesn't make you less of an athlete. In fact, it makes you more human, more relatable, and ultimately more resilient. By acknowledging your vulnerabilities, you open the door to growth, learning, and self-improvement. For many men, however, vulnerability feels like the ultimate taboo. Society often teaches men that they need to be tough, stoic, and in control at all times. But this mindset can be incredibly damaging, especially in the face of defeat. Refusing to acknowledge your struggles doesn't make them go away, it just makes them harder to deal with. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling. Whether it's frustration, disappointment, or doubt, these emotions are valid. Ignoring them or pretending they don't exist won't help. In fact, it can make things worse. But when you face these emotions head-on, when you admit that defeat hurts, you give yourself the opportunity to process them in a healthy way. Learning from the greats, how champions handle defeat. If you look at some of the greatest athletes in history, you'll notice one common trait. They know how to handle defeat. They don't shy away from it, nor do they let it define them. Instead, they use their losses as fuel for their future success. Whether it's a devastating loss in a championship game or a failed attempt at a personal best, champions see defeat as part of the process. Take Serena Williams, for example. Widely regarded as one of the greatest tennis players of all time, Williams has faced her fair share of losses on the court. But instead of letting those defeats discourage her, she uses them as motivation to improve. After every loss, she studies what went wrong, adjusts her training, and comes back stronger. It's this ability to bounce back from failure that has made her a champion time and time again. The same is true for countless other athletes. What sets them apart isn't that they never fail, it's that they know how to learn from failure. They understand that defeat is temporary, but the lessons it teaches can last a lifetime. Finding strength in defeat. Your journey to mental toughness. At the end of the day, how you handle defeat says more about you as an athlete than how you handle success. Anyone can feel good when they're winning, but it's your ability to bounce back from failure that truly defines your character. Every loss, every setback, and every missed goal is an opportunity to build mental resilience, to learn more about yourself, and to grow stronger. So, the next time you face defeat, remember, it's not the end of the world. It's a part of the journey. Embrace it, learn from it, and use it to fuel your future success. Because in the long run, it's not the wins that make you a champion, it's how you rise after every fall. Chapter 8. Retirement from Sports. The Emotional and Psychological Transition. At some point, every athlete's journey comes to an end. Whether it's after a long and storied career or a relatively short stint in competitive sports, retirement is an inevitable part of the game. But while the physical toll of sports is often acknowledged, the emotional and psychological toll of retiring from sports is rarely discussed. For many men, retirement from sports represents more than just the end of a career or a hobby. It's the end of an identity, a way of life, and a sense of purpose that's been built over years or even decades. The transition from being an athlete to navigating life without the structure, competition, and camaraderie of sports can be daunting. It's a shift that's filled with emotional challenges, grief, loss, uncertainty, and sometimes even a sense of abandonment. After dedicating so much time and energy to training, competing, and striving for success, many athletes struggle to find a new sense of self once the game is over. The identity crisis. when you're no longer the athlete. For most athletes, sports aren't just something they do, they're who they are. Whether you were a professional athlete, a college player, or even a dedicated amateur, your identity is often tied to your role in sports. You're the football player, the boxer, the runner, and that identity can shape not only how others see you but how you see yourself. When you retire from sports, it's not just the activity that you're leaving behind, it's a piece of who you are. This identity crisis is a significant psychological hurdle for many athletes. After spending years, sometimes decades, dedicating yourself to training, competing, and achieving in your sport, it can feel like a part of you has been lost when you're no longer actively participating. The routines that once structured your life, the goals that drove your actions, and the adrenaline that fueled your days are suddenly gone. And with them, you may feel like your sense of purpose has vanished too. Men, in particular, often tie their identity to their physical abilities and accomplishments. In sports, being strong, fast, and capable is not just a skill set, it's a marker of masculinity. When that ability to compete is taken away by retirement, it can leave a void that's hard to fill. For some, the question becomes, who am I if I'm not the athlete? The emotional roller coaster of letting go. Retirement from sports can evoke a wide range of emotions. For some, there's a sense of relief. No more grueling workouts, no more pressure to perform, and no more injuries to nurse. But for many, the primary emotions that come with retirement are grief and loss. The sport that once brought joy, camaraderie, and purpose is no longer part of daily life, and that absence can feel like a significant loss, almost like the end of a relationship. It's not uncommon for retired athletes to go through a grieving process. There's the initial shock of no longer being part of the game, followed by feelings of sadness, nostalgia, and even anger. You might find yourself reminiscing about the good old days of competing, feeling envious of those who are still in the game, or struggling with the realization that you'll never experience those highs again. For some athletes, this emotional roller coaster can even lead to depression. The loss of structure, purpose, and identity can leave a void that feels impossible to fill. The transition from being an athlete to a regular person can feel like a downgrade, and it's easy to fall into a spiral of self-doubt, questioning your worth and wondering what's next. And then there's the issue of unfinished business. Many athletes retire without having achieved everything they hoped to. Whether it's an injury that cut a career short, a missed championship, or a personal best that was never reached, retirement can leave you with a sense of what if? What if I had just pushed a little harder? What if I hadn't gotten injured? What if I had one more season? These lingering doubts can make it even harder to let go and move on. The physical toll of retirement. When the body slows down. Retirement from sports doesn't just affect your mind, it affects your body too. After years of intense physical activity, training, and competition, your body has become accustomed to a certain level of exertion. When you stop, the physical changes can be just as challenging as the emotional ones. Without the regular routine of training, you may notice a decline in your physical fitness, strength, and overall health. For athletes who have spent their lives in peak physical condition, this can be a tough pill to swallow. The body's decline after retirement is natural, but it can be difficult to accept. You might notice that you're gaining weight more easily, that your muscles are losing their tone, or that your endurance isn't what it used to be. These physical changes can contribute to feelings of frustration and even a sense of betrayal. After all, your body has been your greatest asset for so long, and now it seems to be letting you down. The challenge is finding a new balance. After retirement, your body still needs care, but it's important to recognize that the demands of high-level competition are no longer necessary. Adjusting to a new fitness routine that's focused on longevity, health, and well-being rather than peak performance can be difficult, but it's an essential part of the transition. It's also an opportunity to reconnect with your body in a new way, one that prioritizes health and self-care over the pressures of competition. Finding purpose after sports. Redefining your life's mission. One of the biggest challenges of retiring from sports is finding a new sense of purpose. For years, your goals were clear. Win the game, improve your performance, set new records. Now that those goals are behind you, it's natural to feel adrift. What do you do with your time? What drives you? Where do you find that same sense of accomplishment? The good news is that retirement from sports is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of a new chapter. While it may be difficult to let go of the goals that once defined you, it's also an opportunity to discover new passions, new pursuits, and new ways to contribute to the world. For many retired athletes, this means finding ways to stay connected to the sport they love, even if they're no longer competing. Coaching, mentoring, or becoming involved in youth sports can provide a new sense of purpose and allow you to pass on the knowledge and experience you've gained. Others find fulfillment in pursuing new hobbies or careers, focusing on personal growth and exploring interests they didn't have time for during their athletic careers. It's also important to recognize that the skills and qualities that made you successful as an athlete, discipline, perseverance, resilience, are transferable to other areas of life. Whether you're starting a new business, pursuing a creative passion, or simply focusing on your family, the mindset that helped you succeed in sports can help you succeed in your next chapter as well. The importance of mental health in retirement. The psychological challenges of retiring from sports are real, and they shouldn't be ignored. Just as athletes prepare for the physical demands of competition, they should also prepare for the emotional and mental demands of retirement. This means acknowledging the feelings of loss, uncertainty, and even grief that come with leaving the game behind. It also means being proactive about your mental health, seeking support when needed, and giving yourself time to adjust to your new reality. For many athletes, therapy or counseling can be incredibly beneficial during this transition. Working with a mental health professional can help you process the emotions that come with retirement, explore new avenues for personal growth, and develop strategies for maintaining your mental well-being. There's no shame in seeking help. Just as you would work with a coach to improve your physical performance, a therapist can help you improve your emotional and psychological resilience. Reconnecting with the why, what motivates you beyond sports. One of the most powerful ways to navigate the emotional challenges of retirement is to reconnect with your why, the deeper motivation that drives you. While sports may have been a big part of your life, they were likely just one way of expressing a larger purpose. Maybe you were driven by a desire to challenge yourself, to inspire others, or to push the boundaries of what you thought was possible. Those motivations don't disappear just because you've retired from the game. Take the time to reflect on what truly motivates you, and think about how you can apply that motivation in new ways. For some, this might mean giving back to the community, teaching others, or becoming involved in causes they care about. For others, it might mean pursuing a new challenge, whether it's starting a new business, learning a new skill, or tackling a new personal goal. By reconnecting with your deeper why, you can find new meaning and fulfillment in life after sports. Retirement isn't the end of your journey, it's simply a transition to a new phase, one that's full of possibility and potential. Celebrating the journey, reflecting on your achievements. As you navigate the emotional and psychological challenges of retiring from sports, it's important to take time to celebrate your journey. Too often, athletes are so focused on the next goal, the next competition, the next win, that they forget to reflect on all they've accomplished. Retirement is an opportunity to look back with pride on what you've achieved, to recognize the hard work and dedication that got you to where you are today. This doesn't mean dwelling in the past, it means honoring it. Your career, whether it was short or long, successful or full of challenges, shaped you into the person you are today. It taught you valuable lessons, gave you unforgettable experiences, and helped you build the resilience and strength that will carry you forward into the next chapter of your life. Retirement from sports can be challenging, but it's also an opportunity for growth, reflection, and reinvention. By facing the emotional and psychological hurdles head-on, embracing new possibilities, and celebrating the journey that brought you here, you can find fulfillment and purpose in life after the game. After all, the lessons you learned on the field, in the gym, and in competition don't disappear when you retire, they stay with you, guiding you through whatever comes next. Chapter 9. Mental Health in Extreme Sports. Managing Risk and Fear. Extreme sports hold a unique allure. The thrill of jumping off cliffs, surfing colossal waves, or hurtling down a mountain on a bike gives a rush like no other. For many men, these activities are a way to push boundaries, conquer fears, and feel truly alive. But the adrenaline-packed world of extreme sports isn't just about physical strength and skill, it's also a mental game. Behind the exhilarating moments and jaw-dropping stunts lies a constant battle with risk, fear, and the potential for catastrophic failure. And navigating this mental terrain can take a serious toll on an athlete's mental health. Extreme sports athletes live on the edge, both literally and figuratively. The very nature of these sports involves a higher level of danger, requiring athletes to push their bodies and minds to their limits. While this can result in incredible highs, the flip side is a vulnerability to mental health challenges that often go unnoticed. Anxiety, fear, and even trauma are common experiences, and if not properly managed, they can lead to long-term psychological issues. The thrill and the fear. Why we chase the adrenaline. To understand the mental challenges of extreme sports, we first need to acknowledge why people are drawn to them in the first place. The answer is simple: adrenaline. The rush that comes from pushing the limits of what's physically possible is intoxicating. It's a natural high that no amount of gym training or traditional competition can replicate. Whether it's skiing down an untouched mountain slope or free climbing a rock face, The sense of achievement after conquering a massive challenge is unparalleled. But here's the catch: the adrenaline rush is closely tied to fear. In fact, fear is an integral part of the experience. It's what keeps you alert, sharp, and ready to react. For many athletes, it's the combination of fear and exhilaration that makes extreme sports so addictive. The stakes are high, and that's what makes the reward so satisfying. However, this constant flirtation with danger can have serious mental health consequences. Athletes who thrive on adrenaline often struggle with managing the come-down. After the high of an intense session, the mind has to readjust, and this shift can lead to feelings of emptiness, restlessness, or even depression. It's like chasing a high that can never be sustained, which creates a cycle of constantly needing to up the ante to feel that same rush again. The psychological impact of risk: living with the consequences. One of the most significant mental challenges in extreme sports is learning to live with risk, real, life-threatening risk. While traditional sports involve competition and physical strain, extreme sports add another layer of danger. Every time you step onto that skateboard, strap into that wingsuit, or climb into that kayak, there's a chance that something could go wrong. And the consequences of failure in extreme sports can be severe: serious injury, paralysis, or even death. Living with this level of risk requires a particular mental toughness. You have to be able to assess dangers, trust your skills, and make split-second decisions under intense pressure. But constantly operating in this state of high alert can wear down even the strongest minds. Over time, the accumulation of close calls and near misses can lead to a form of psychological exhaustion. You're always on edge, always aware that one wrong move could change everything. For some athletes, the stress of managing this risk can lead to chronic anxiety. Even if they're highly skilled and experienced, the fear of injury or failure can start to creep into their minds during performance, causing hesitation or self-doubt. This anxiety doesn't just show up during competitions or events. It can linger in everyday life, affecting sleep, relationships, and overall well-being. What's more, when accidents or injuries do happen, they often carry a heavy psychological burden. The trauma of a severe injury, or even witnessing someone else's accident, can create lasting emotional scars. For some, the road to recovery isn't just about physical rehabilitation. It's about overcoming the mental trauma that comes with experiencing or narrowly avoiding disaster. Overcoming the fear: mental training in extreme sports. Fear is an inescapable part of extreme sports, but it's how athletes manage that fear that separates the good from the great. Mental training is just as important as physical training when it comes to preparing for extreme sports. Athletes need to learn how to control their fear, harness it, and use it to their advantage rather than letting it paralyze them. One of the most effective mental training techniques in extreme sports is visualization. Before attempting a dangerous stunt or tackling a difficult course, athletes often mentally rehearse every step. They visualize themselves successfully completing the challenge, feeling every movement, every breath, and every decision as if they were already there. Visualization helps reduce anxiety by creating a sense of familiarity with the task at hand, making the real event feel less daunting. Another critical technique is mindfulness. In extreme sports, staying present in the moment is key to survival. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation and controlled breathing, help athletes stay grounded and focused, even in high-stress situations. When fear threatens to take over, mindfulness allows them to return to the present moment, focusing only on what they can control. By practicing mindfulness regularly, athletes build mental resilience and the ability to stay calm under pressure. Athletes in extreme sports also rely on mental toughness training, practices that help them build psychological resilience. These techniques include positive self-talk, where athletes remind themselves of their abilities and past successes to counteract fear and self-doubt. Building this kind of mental resilience helps athletes bounce back quickly from setbacks, failures, or near misses, ensuring that fear doesn't control their performance. Dealing with the aftermath, coping with trauma and injury. Unfortunately, the nature of extreme sports means that injuries and accidents are almost inevitable. And while physical recovery is often the focus, the mental recovery process is just as important. For many athletes, the emotional trauma of a serious accident can have long-lasting effects that go beyond physical pain. In some cases, these experiences can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, where the athlete constantly replays the event in their mind, reliving the fear, pain, and helplessness they felt at the time. PTSD in extreme sports can manifest in several ways. Some athletes develop an intense fear of returning to their sport, even if they've fully healed physically. They may have flashbacks of the accident or experience anxiety attacks when faced with situations that remind them of the trauma. This mental and emotional toll can be devastating, leading to a loss of confidence and a reluctance to ever take part in the sport again. Addressing this trauma requires professional mental health support. Therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), is an effective tool for helping athletes process their trauma and learn to manage the psychological effects of their injuries. For some, exposure therapy, where they gradually reintroduce themselves to the sport in a controlled environment, can help reduce fear and rebuild confidence. It's crucial for athletes to understand that seeking help for mental health challenges is not a sign of weakness. In the world of extreme sports, where physical toughness is often celebrated, the emotional toll of injuries and trauma is sometimes downplayed. But acknowledging the mental impact of these experiences and seeking support is a critical part of the healing process. Addicted to the adrenaline, the mental health risks of extreme sports. For many athletes in extreme sports, the thrill of the adrenaline rush can become addictive. The feeling of pushing your body to the limit and conquering your fears is exhilarating, but over time, some athletes may find themselves chasing increasingly dangerous challenges just to feel that same rush. This addiction to adrenaline can lead to reckless behavior, where athletes take on risks that far outweigh the potential rewards. The danger of this adrenaline addiction is that it can cloud judgment. Athletes may begin to ignore safety precautions, push themselves beyond their physical limits, or attempt stunts that they're not fully prepared for, all in the name of feeling that next high. The mental health consequences of this mindset can be severe, leading to increased anxiety, impulsivity, and poor decision-making. For some, the addiction to adrenaline isn't just about the sport, it seeps into other areas of life. When they're not in the middle of an extreme event, they may feel restless, irritable, or even depressed. The highs of extreme sports can make everyday life feel dull in comparison, leading to a constant search for new thrills. This cycle can be mentally exhausting, and without intervention, it can have serious consequences for both physical and mental health. Balancing risk and mental health, staying grounded in extreme sports. So, how do athletes in extreme sports balance their passion for the thrill with the need to protect their mental health? The key lies in understanding and managing the psychological risks as carefully as they manage the physical ones. Extreme athletes must learn to recognize when the pursuit of adrenaline is crossing into dangerous territory, both physically and mentally. Here are a few strategies for maintaining mental health in extreme sports. 1. Set boundaries. It's important to set personal limits and know when to say no. Not every risk is worth taking, and part of mental resilience is being able to assess when a challenge is too dangerous. Setting boundaries helps athletes avoid situations where the risks outweigh the rewards. 2. Build a strong support system. Extreme sports often require athletes to go it alone, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't have a strong support network. Friends, family, and fellow athletes can provide valuable emotional support and help you stay grounded. Having someone to talk to when fear or anxiety creeps in can make a big difference in your mental health. 3. Recognize the warning signs of burnout. Like in any other sport, burnout is a real risk in extreme sports. If you start to feel mentally and emotionally exhausted, it's important to take a step back and rest. Constantly pushing yourself to perform can lead to burnout, which not only affects your mental health but also increases the likelihood of injury. 4. Find balance outside the sport. While extreme sports may be your passion, it's important to have other interests and hobbies that provide fulfillment. This balance can prevent you from becoming too dependent on the adrenaline rush to feel happy or satisfied. 5. Focus on long-term mental health. Extreme sports can be mentally taxing, and it's important to prioritize long-term mental health. This means practicing self-care, seeking professional help when needed, and understanding that your mental well-being is just as important as your physical performance. Conclusion: embracing the thrill but protecting your mind. Extreme sports offer an incredible sense of freedom, accomplishment, and adventure. But with those rewards come significant mental health challenges that must be addressed. Managing fear, living with risk, and dealing with the emotional fallout of injuries are all part of the mental game that athletes in extreme sports must play. By acknowledging these challenges and taking proactive steps to protect your mental health, you can continue to pursue the adrenaline-fueled highs of extreme sports without sacrificing your emotional well-being. Because in the end, true strength in extreme sports isn't just about conquering physical obstacles. It's about mastering the mental game and knowing when to push forward and when to step back. By balancing risk with mental resilience, athletes can continue to enjoy the thrill of the sport while staying mentally grounded and emotionally healthy. Chapter 10. The Power of Mindfulness and Mental Training in Sports. In the world of sports and fitness, physical prowess is often celebrated. Athletes dedicate countless hours to honing their bodies, improving their strength, agility, and endurance. But as much as physical conditioning is crucial to success, it is only part of the equation. Behind every exceptional athlete is not just a strong body, but also a strong mind. The ability to stay focused, calm under pressure, and mentally resilient can be the difference between success and failure. This is where the power of mindfulness and mental training comes into play. Mindfulness, once relegated to yoga studios and meditation retreats, has increasingly become a cornerstone in the world of high-performance sports. Mental training is no longer viewed as just an added bonus. It's an essential part of the athlete's toolkit. In fact, many top athletes credit their success not just to their physical abilities, but to their mental discipline and mindfulness practices. Whether it's learning how to stay present in the moment, managing stress, or visualizing success, mindfulness can help athletes unlock their full potential. The mental game: why mindset matters in sports. Before diving into the specifics of mindfulness and mental training, it's important to understand just how much mindset matters in sports. Physical ability will only take an athlete so far. What often separates the good from the great is not who can lift the heaviest weights or run the fastest laps. It's who can perform under pressure, who can stay composed when the stakes are high, and who can bounce back after a failure. Think about it. How many times have you seen a physically gifted athlete falter in a critical moment? Or witnessed a competitor choke under pressure? It's not because they lack the skill or strength. They've trained for this moment. But the mind can be a powerful ally or a formidable enemy. If it's not properly trained, it can undermine even the best physical efforts. In high-pressure situations, the mind often races with thoughts of doubt, fear, and anxiety. What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? What if I'm not good enough? These thoughts are natural, but if left unchecked, they can derail performance. Mental training is about learning how to manage these thoughts and emotions, so they don't get in the way of an athlete's physical abilities. What is mindfulness? A tool for mental clarity. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment. It's about focusing on what is happening right now, rather than worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. For athletes, this means staying present during a game, match, or workout, instead of getting lost in thoughts about the outcome or reliving past mistakes. The concept of mindfulness might sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful. In the world of sports, where distractions are everywhere, staying focused can be a game changer. Athletes who practice mindfulness are better able to concentrate on the task at hand, block out distractions, and stay calm under pressure. Instead of letting nerves or fear take over, they can remain in control of their emotions and actions. One of the key benefits of mindfulness is that it teaches athletes how to respond rather than react. When things go wrong, like missing a shot, falling short of a goal, or making a mistake, mindfulness helps athletes avoid knee-jerk reactions like frustration, anger, or panic. Instead, they learn to acknowledge what happened, accept it, and refocus on the next moment. This ability to recover quickly from setbacks is critical in sports, where a split-second loss of focus can mean the difference between winning and losing. The science behind mindfulness: how it affects the brain. Mindfulness isn't just some new age fad, it's backed by science. Studies have shown that practicing mindfulness can have a profound impact on the brain, particularly in areas related to stress, focus, and emotional regulation. One of the most significant findings is that mindfulness can change the structure of the brain through a process known as neuroplasticity. When athletes practice mindfulness regularly, they strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, concentration, and emotional control. At the same time, they reduce activity in the amygdala, which is the brain's fear and stress center. This shift in brain activity means that athletes who practice mindfulness are better able to stay calm under pressure, make clear-headed decisions, and remain focused, even in high-stress situations. Another important benefit of mindfulness is its ability to reduce stress and anxiety. Sports can be incredibly stressful, especially at the elite level, where athletes are constantly competing under intense scrutiny. The pressure to perform can lead to anxiety, which can negatively impact both mental and physical performance. Mindfulness helps athletes manage this anxiety by teaching them how to stay grounded in the present moment, rather than getting caught up in what-if scenarios. Visualization: the power of mental rehearsal. Another key aspect of mental training is visualization, a technique that has been used by athletes for decades to enhance performance. Visualization is the process of mentally rehearsing a skill, competition, or workout in vivid detail, imagining yourself performing at your best. This practice allows athletes to mentally prepare for upcoming challenges, helping them build confidence and reduce performance anxiety. Visualization works because the brain can't always distinguish between real and imagined experiences. When an athlete visualizes themselves successfully completing a task, whether it's hitting a home run, making a free throw, or running a marathon, the brain activates the same neural pathways as it would during the actual event. This means that, in a sense, visualization is like practicing without physically doing the activity. For athletes, visualization can be a powerful tool for preparing mentally before a big event. By imagining themselves performing successfully, athletes build confidence and reduce the fear of failure. They also become more familiar with the sensations and emotions they'll experience during competition, which makes the actual event feel less intimidating. It's a way of practicing success without even stepping onto the field, court, or track. Breathing techniques, staying calm under pressure. In moments of intense pressure, athletes need tools to stay calm and focused. One of the most effective techniques is controlled breathing. The way we breathe has a direct impact on our nervous system, and by practicing deep, controlled breathing, athletes can calm their minds, lower their heart rates, and reduce anxiety. One popular breathing technique is box breathing, which involves inhaling for a count of 4, holding the breath for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding again for 4. This simple but powerful technique can be used during moments of stress to quickly regain control and composure. Many elite athletes use breathing exercises to manage pre-game nerves or to refocus after a mistake. Another useful technique is diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. This type of breathing encourages athletes to use their diaphragm rather than their chest to breathe, which allows for deeper, more efficient breaths. Diaphragmatic breathing is particularly helpful for endurance athletes, as it promotes relaxation and prevents the short, shallow breaths that can lead to fatigue and increased heart rate. Breathing techniques are not just about calming the mind, they also improve physical performance. When athletes control their breath, they improve oxygen flow to the muscles, enhance endurance, and maintain focus during high-intensity efforts. Developing mental resilience, bouncing back from setbacks. Mental resilience is the ability to recover quickly from setbacks, mistakes, or failures. It's an essential quality for athletes who often face challenges, obstacles, and disappointments throughout their careers. Whether it's losing a game, suffering an injury, or facing criticism, mentally resilient athletes know how to bounce back and keep moving forward. One of the best ways to develop mental resilience is by practicing self-compassion. Athletes, especially men, are often their own harshest critics. When things go wrong, they may beat themselves up, dwelling on mistakes or failures. This negative self-talk can erode confidence and hinder performance. Self-compassion, on the other hand, involves treating yourself with kindness and understanding when things don't go as planned. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, resilient athletes learn to focus on what they can do better next time. They recognize that failure is part of the process and that setbacks are opportunities for growth. Another key component of mental resilience is goal setting. Athletes who set clear, achievable goals are more likely to stay focused and motivated, even in the face of challenges. It's important to set both short-term and long-term goals so you always have something to work toward. When setbacks occur, goal setting helps athletes stay grounded and focused on their progress, rather than getting lost in disappointment. The role of meditation, a quiet mind for a stronger body. Meditation is another powerful tool in the mental training toolkit. It's not just about sitting still and clearing your mind, it's about training your brain to stay focused, calm, and present. For athletes, this can translate into improved concentration, better decision-making, and a greater ability to manage stress. Meditation works by calming the nervous system and helping athletes develop greater control over their thoughts and emotions. When practiced regularly, it can increase an athlete's ability to stay focused during competition, recover from mistakes more quickly, and avoid getting overwhelmed by pressure. One form of meditation that's particularly useful for athletes is guided meditation, where an instructor or audio recording leads the listener through a mental exercise, such as body awareness, relaxation, or visualization. These meditations can be tailored to specific performance goals, helping athletes mentally prepare for competitions or recover after intense physical exertion. Incorporating mental training into your routine. So, how can athletes incorporate mindfulness and mental training into their existing routines? The good news is that it doesn't require a significant time commitment. Just a few minutes a day can make a big difference. Here are some practical tips for adding mental training to your regimen. 1. Start with just 5 minutes a day. You don't need to dedicate hours to mindfulness or meditation. Start small. Take 5 minutes each morning or evening to practice mindfulness, whether it's deep breathing, meditation, or visualization. Over time, you can increase the length of your sessions as you become more comfortable. 2. Use visualization before competitions or workouts. Before a big game or tough workout, Take a few minutes to visualize yourself performing at your best. Imagine the movements, the environment, and the feeling of success. This mental rehearsal will help build your confidence and reduce anxiety. 3. Practice mindfulness in everyday activities. Mindfulness doesn't have to be limited to formal meditation sessions. Practice staying present during everyday activities, whether it's eating, walking, or stretching. By training your brain to stay focused during mundane tasks, you'll be better prepared to stay focused during high-pressure moments. 4. Incorporate breathing exercises into your warm-up. Before a workout or competition, spend a few minutes practicing deep breathing or box breathing. This will help calm your nerves, improve focus, and get your body ready for action. 5. Set process-oriented goals. Instead of only focusing on outcome-based goals like winning a game, set goals that focus on the process, such as improving a specific skill or maintaining a positive mindset during training. This helps reduce pressure and keeps you focused on long-term progress. Conclusion: the mind is the key to unlocking athletic potential. At the highest levels of sports and fitness, physical ability alone is not enough. The difference between good and great often comes down to the mind, how well an athlete can focus, manage pressure, and recover from setbacks. Mindfulness and mental training are not just add-ons, they are essential components of success. By incorporating mindfulness practices such as meditation, visualization, and breathing techniques, athletes can sharpen their mental edge, reduce anxiety, and perform at their best. But perhaps more importantly, these practices can improve overall well-being, helping athletes stay grounded, resilient, and balanced, both on and off the field. The mind is a powerful tool, one that, when trained properly, can help athletes unlock their full potential and achieve greatness. It's not just about being stronger, faster, or more skilled. It's about having the mental discipline to stay focused, calm, and confident, no matter what challenges lie ahead. Conclusion: the journey to mental and physical mastery in sports and fitness. As we bring this book to a close, it's essential to reflect on the key lesson that has been woven through each chapter. Mastering both the body and the mind is the ultimate goal for any athlete or fitness enthusiast. Whether you're pushing through the pressures of performance, overcoming the sting of defeat, recovering from injury, or facing the transition into retirement, mental and physical resilience go hand in hand. The road to success in sports and fitness is not just paved with physical conditioning, it's also about mental fortitude, emotional balance, and a deep understanding of yourself. The power of a balanced approach. Sports and fitness are often seen through a lens of physical achievement. We celebrate records broken, weights lifted, and endurance tested. But this focus on the physical sometimes overshadows the critical role that mental health plays in athletic success. Throughout this book, we've explored how athletes, from weekend warriors to elite professionals, face the same challenges: pressure, injury, burnout, defeat, and even the emotional complexity of success itself. In every chapter, we've looked at how mental health is just as important as physical prowess, and perhaps even more so. After all, it's the mind that guides the body. It's the mind that tells you to push through the last mile of a marathon, the mind that calms you under pressure in the final seconds of a game, and the mind that helps you recover from injury when your body feels broken. But achieving mental mastery doesn't come from willpower alone. It requires a balanced approach. Just as you wouldn't attempt to lift a heavy weight without proper training and technique, you can't expect to achieve mental toughness without investing in the right strategies and tools. Mindfulness, mental training, and a focus on emotional well-being are all essential elements of this journey. Rewriting the narrative, strength through vulnerability. One of the most important takeaways from this book is the idea that strength isn't just about physical dominance. It's about vulnerability, honesty, and the willingness to address your mental and emotional needs. For far too long, the world of sports has perpetuated a toxic narrative that athletes, especially men, should be stoic, tough, and unshakable. But the truth is, vulnerability is where true strength lies. When athletes open up about their struggles, whether it's performance anxiety, body image issues, the psychological toll of injuries, or the loneliness of success, they take the first step toward building mental resilience. Acknowledging that you're human, that you have fears and doubts, doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. It makes you relatable. And ultimately, it makes you stronger. The journey to mental and physical mastery is not about ignoring or suppressing your emotions. It's about learning how to work with them. It's about embracing your imperfections, learning from your failures, and recognizing that every setback is an opportunity for growth. Vulnerability allows athletes to develop a deeper understanding of themselves, which in turn enhances their performance and overall well-being. The importance of rest and recovery. Throughout this book, we've explored the dangers of burnout and overtraining, Two of the most common challenges athletes face when they push their bodies too hard without allowing for adequate rest. The same principle applies to mental health. Just as the body needs time to recover after intense physical exertion, the mind needs time to rest and recharge after periods of stress, pressure, and competition. Rest and recovery aren't signs of laziness, they're essential components of growth. By giving yourself the time and space to recover, both physically and mentally, you allow your body and mind to repair, rebuild, and come back stronger. This is where mindfulness and self-care come into play. Practices like meditation, breathing exercises, and mindfulness techniques aren't just tools to calm the mind in stressful moments. They're also ways to maintain balance and avoid burnout in the long run. Understanding when to push and when to rest is crucial. It's easy to get caught up in the grind, to feel like you always need to be doing more. But true mastery comes from knowing when to step back, when to listen to your body, and when to prioritize your mental health. By making rest and recovery a part of your training routine, you'll set yourself up for long-term success, not just short-term gains. Redefining success, beyond winning and losing. We've spent a lot of time discussing the pressures of competition, the fear of failure, and the emotional weight of defeat. But it's important to remember that success in sports and fitness is about more than winning or losing. It's about growth, progress, and personal fulfillment. It's about the journey, not just the destination. Too often, athletes tie their self-worth to their achievements. They measure success by trophies, medals, and records. While these accomplishments are important and worth celebrating, they don't define you. True success is about becoming the best version of yourself, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Every time you face a challenge, overcome a setback, or push through a tough training session, you're succeeding. Every time you choose to prioritize your mental health, every time you practice mindfulness, and every time you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you're winning. Success is not a singular event. It's a continuous process of growth, learning, and self-improvement. Moving forward. A lifelong commitment to mental and physical well-being. As you move forward in your athletic journey, whether you're an elite athlete, a dedicated amateur, or someone who's just beginning their fitness path, remember that the commitment to mental and physical well-being is lifelong. There will always be new challenges to face, new goals to achieve, and new obstacles to overcome. But by integrating the lessons from this book into your life, you'll be better equipped to navigate these challenges with resilience, grace, and strength. Your mental and physical health are intertwined. You can't have one without the other. By focusing on both, you'll not only improve your performance in sports, but you'll also improve your overall quality of life. The journey to mental and physical mastery is ongoing, and there will be times when you stumble, times when you fall short, and times when you feel like giving up. But each of these moments is an opportunity to learn, grow, and become stronger. Final thoughts. Embrace the journey. As we conclude this book, the final piece of advice is simple. Embrace the journey. Whether you're in the prime of your athletic career, recovering from an injury, or transitioning into life after sports, know that every step of the process is valuable. The ups and downs, the victories and defeats, they all play a role in shaping who you are as an athlete and as a person. Embrace the challenges, embrace the setbacks, and most importantly, embrace the opportunities for growth. There's no finish line when it comes to mastering your mind and body. It's a lifelong journey, and the more you invest in your mental and physical well-being, the more fulfilling that journey will be. So, go forward with confidence, knowing that you have the tools, the strength, and the resilience to face whatever comes your way. The road to mental and physical mastery is not always easy, but it's a journey worth taking.